So, Olivia, I know that you are here. Who do we have with us?
This is my husband and co-founder of Trial Haus Consulting, Steve.
Okay, Steve, nice to see you.
Nice to meet you too.
I am excited. I took a look at your website when I knew we were going to be talking. So I think you guys have something pretty fascinating that you're doing. So this you guys have probably seen enough of the episodes to know we're rolling right now. We got the whole hour. We're just going to apply the 8 profit activators to your business. And so let's start with, tell us the story, who you are, what you do, and hopefully what you're hoping to get out of our time today.
Yeah, so we are actors. We met in college in the theater department at San Diego State and have a career basically in acting. I'm a director and a playwright, and we are also teaching artists, so educators as well. And some time ago, while Steve was doing improv, we met a trial attorney, a very famous one who does constructive cross trial skills. And Steve started to notice all of the crossover between improv and constructive cross, where you make the opposing witness a tool for your narrative through more conversational techniques versus kind of trying to beat them down and impeach them.
I love
And
this.
so we started to create a program. And meanwhile, we were traveling around the country with this attorney for about 7 years. And we've tallied that we've been cross examined at least 1,500 times by some pretty top trial
Yeah.
attorneys. So we've seen pretty much everything. And because we're educators, we can kind of put the tools together to take what we do in the theater and translate that to the courtroom in a way that makes attorneys a better advocate, better storytellers, and really just all around sort of just really kind of giving them the confidence that they need when they're not really learning some of these things in law
Mhm.
school, like presenting and storytelling, things like that. So,
Yeah, they're
yeah,
not
that's
learning the
pretty much
real
what we
skills,
do.
right?
In the last 5 years, when we talk about creating programs for lawyers, since the pandemic, we started working with this group of lawyers and we were literally creating like tools and programs to fit their needs. And
Okay.
now we just launched it, and it's like an 8-week program where we've kind of put everything that we've learned in the last 5 years together. And now we know it can have dramatic impacts on a trial lawyer to just be way
Right.
more effective storyteller in the courtroom. So it's kind of we're at that moment where we've kind of had a lot of experiences. We are
Yes.
really confident. We know it because we've seen
Yeah.
really like from people who are like have had careers for decades to people that are brand new. We've seen how we can help them. And so it's about taking that next step, basically.
I love it. So this is, I mean, I love all I study, legal things just in a persuasion kind of standpoint as a marketer. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the most impactful books I ever read was How to Argue and Win Every Time by Jerry
Mhm.
Spence, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
Yeah.
fantastic, right? Like
Mhm.
and he talks about the importance of story, of telling
Mhm.
a story that resonates with someone. And there were so many great lessons from that. So I'm excited to hear all about it. How did we get connected?
So I actually found you from, I was in Dream Club. And so
Oh, okay, with
your
Marie. Yeah, yeah.
millionaire throwdown and the 9 word email
Okay,
was just hooked from there.
Yeah.
okay,
And
perfect.
then while she's watching that, I was over her shoulder going, "Oh yeah, this is good."
Oh yeah, oh yeah, this is good. Okay, perfect. I love it. So tell me about the business then of what you do and how do you
Yeah. Because we started out really as improv based and kind of thinking that one day we would have a brick and mortar improv, our name was House of Improv. And as we started to work with trial attorneys and that really got accelerated and moving forward, even as an actor, was afraid of improvisation. And so when attorneys hear that, an even greater kind of fear or just kind of out of the box, a little bit of everything when it comes to hearing the word improv.
Yeah, that was my part of it. Like it really started because of just out of necessity. We had ideas, like Olivia said, about a theater, but like that was my part. And what she brings is a whole
He's an
different,
improv actor. I'm a
yeah,
scripted actor.
yeah,
Okay.
So that
and a
shifted.
director, and
Yeah.
yeah, and all like a lot more than that. So
Yeah. So we started to kind of shift and see that, people were nervous about that improv. And so we kind of even changed the names of our program to be less improv based
Yeah.
and also even our marketing, not necessarily put improv out there in terms of how the sausage was being made. And then attorneys started to tell us too, yeah, we have this program with you coming up. I didn't tell anybody it was going to be about improv. So hopefully everybody will show up, because we started to see people just weren't showing up. So when we changed in about January to February, Trial Haus Consulting, it was already kind of a shift, to be honest with you. Pretty not over the top noticeable, but enough to be like, okay, this is the right direction, because it's also what
Yeah.
we do. We're more than just improv. We help, coach witnesses. We help opening statements. So yeah.
Yeah, people are approaching us now about, hey, I have this case. What are all the things that you can do for us? Now
Mhm.
we know all the things that we can do for them. And there's a number of services. It's not just an improv class for lawyers, which is really great. And that's something we don't ever, I don't think we should ever get rid of. And we definitely use that in the other services that we do. But we're starting to get approached like that, and it seems to have a positive effect.
So with enough of this like that, it's a really interesting thing that, you could probably see the benefits just on the top level of improv, of being able to think on your feet, be able to respond and react and, have formulas kind of thing for knowing what to do. But I could see how they might look at that as just like a qualitative thing that is just a soft skill that may or may not make a difference. But what I'm hearing from you is that you seemed pretty excited, Steve, about the ability that that this makes an improvement. And the only way to measure an improvement is quantitatively. So what kind of evidence do you have? Because all the attorneys, of course, are evidence based. And I look
Yeah.
at what we're trying to do when you're starting a relationship with someone who could potentially be a client, is you're kind of presenting your argument and you're building the case for this, and you're hoping to have them come to the same conclusion, the verdict that you guys would be an advantage for them. And if you can quantify that advantage, it makes the investment in whatever they're doing something that has an
Yeah.
ROI on it. So
Yeah.
tell me about what impact you've been able to have.
Yeah. So everything from, in 30 minutes, we can get somebody just this last week thinking about some of the bad facts, quote unquote, bad facts that they talk to other attorneys about their case. And we look at it and we're like, oh no, these are huge advantages. So being able to just in 30 minutes flip somebody's idea of their case and even potentially increase the value to somebody in 90 minutes, taking them from being a robot when it comes to presenting to having personality, having a connection with their audience, and then all responding to us and giving us testimonials in that way. But we've also, verdict wise, we're at
40.6 million. So
since
that we've been
2022.
a part of as far as cases have gone to trial or have settled right before. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then we've also, because we work with plaintiffs attorneys doing like injury claim or injury cases and some family law and some criminal defense as well. So we were also a part of a case where a guy was up for a 100-year prison sentence, and through the work that we did, we were able to help that case and get him acquitted. And we're
Yeah,
pretty proud of that
a
one.
life-saving sentence, and
Yeah.
even the attorney emailed us saying, "I think that the state knew that I was working with you and was really working hard on this and backed out
Mm.
also." So, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So sometimes just
Mhm.
seeing you guys in the mix is a deterrent. That's kind of great. Do you typically work with plaintiffs' attorneys or, yeah?
Plaintiffs, so yeah,
Mostly plaintiffs in criminal
criminal
defense.
defense, mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So large accidents, MTBIs, or just,
Even
yeah,
some,
injuries on the job, things like
yeah,
that.
and trust
Yeah.
litigation as well.
So if we look at the business of this, what you're doing here, how does the business side of it work? What is it that you offer? How do you charge for that? How do you find people? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so we up until this last year, we were doing online classes when it comes to just like our improv class. It was a 4-hour class, maybe once a quarter. We also had a 4-week class, maybe a little bit less than that per year. At the beginning of last year, we also created acting for trial lawyers, where it was an on-demand course where they could just purchase it. That was
Mhm.
through Kajabi. The rest of it, the other live courses were through just our website via PayPal. But we do have a Kajabi course. And this program that we're starting this week, our 8-week course, is also a live course through Kajabi as well.
So go and we'll travel to work with firms and do like half-day workshops or longer. So that's another thing that we'll do.
We also do witness preparation. So we did that this week as well, where we meet for 90 minutes at least 3 times with a witness and preparing them for a deposition or trial. And we've also done this last week too, directing opening statements. So somebody who's going into a trial that needs help with their opening statement.
And another big thing that we're doing, we have a lot of things that we do, Dean. But the other thing that is really exciting is that because we've have all like this cross-examination experience and in all these simulations, we can write really strong, they call them chapters, but basically question organization. We're able to organize it and build it out. So through cross-examination or deposition, we know how to construct it to like kind of build, I don't want to call them traps, but basically box in the witness, and we can write those better than most attorneys, actually. We're actually doing a lot of that now.
Called the tongue foo.
Yes,
right.
People with your words, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
I love that.
It's very Jedi mind trick kind of
Right,
like,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Thinking like a chess master, 2 or 3 steps towards.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
That's exactly right.
Okay. And so what's the top level thing that you do? Do you go on as a consultant for a specific trial, or like working one-on-one with the attorneys, or
Yeah.
what is the price point of relationship
Yeah.
people can have with you? Like from an online course, I guess you're acting for trial attorney.
Yeah. So the 8-week course that we have coming up, that was $2,997, and the price point of our like acting on demand, I think, is $199. That's the purchase. But in terms of the witness simulations we do right now, we haven't done like a full trial. We've just done pieces, like we'll do an opening statement for this attorney, we'll do witness prep for this one.
But if it went all together, the way that we would do it is we would do the witness prep, we would do cross-examination preposition or prep and writing out and helping construct that cross-examination to the very key witness that would be, or key witnesses, and as well as helping construct and coach the opening
It's
statement with
interesting
that.
because you mentioned cross-examination more than direct. Is that something what's the reasoning for
The
that?
attorney that we worked with for a number of years, that was his specialty. And
Okay.
so that became our specialty because that was that entry point where we really understood how our art can affect or can really help ingrain those skills that attorney was teaching. We
Okay.
kind of learned how to teach it better. I mean, it's kind of blasphemous to say that, but
Yeah.
we can teach it better than he can. I so believe that. So, but that's that first thing that we did, and probably what we've worked on the most during our time working with attorneys.
I think it has to do with the control, because, everything in the trial that the attorney is trying to do is build somebody's case, but in a cross-examination, you know, they're trying to make that witness also part of their case, when it's normally not that way, right? They're normally trying to take down everything, but they're really using even what is a contentious part of trial, using it to their advantage.
Yeah,
So that's where that art comes in, I think.
Yeah, and turning that opposing witness into a teaching tool that can, with things that are easily agreed upon,
Yeah.
getting that entered into the mind of the jury. So they're saying, hey, it's not my witness that's agreeing with us. Their witness agrees with us too. And in fact, they agree with us so much that when they got to the part where they disagree, you kind of don't believe them anymore. And that's the idea.
So we call it the yes and method. That's where the improv comes in, the yes and method of
Yeah.
cross, that we talk about it.
Yeah, and those improv skills help you kind of navigate, and we call it a carrot and stick approach to the witness. So you can punish them a little bit, you can reward them, and basically you always have a tool that will always help you get to your goal. Your cross is never ruined. There's always an opportunity there.
Got it. I think about F. Lee Bailey in the O.J. Simpson trial with Mark Furman, turning that into it's very interesting what you guys are doing. So how do you charge for working with an attorney on a specific case like that? Do you charge
That could be by invoice, and they would pay by PayPal or by check?
But like the hourly rate,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, then we have prep hours, and then we have like when we're actually working with them or their clients.
Uh-huh.
So it's $200 for prep hours and then $300 when we're working with them on their case.
Okay. And do you ever come on board for like a personal injury case, for instance, and become part of the process and get paid like the personal injury attorneys get paid on a
Oh,
result?
not yet.
Oh
No.
yeah, no, not we're not taking we haven't there was one time it got offered to us and we're too chicken to do that.
We don't think we're at the point yet to do that
Yeah,
financially.
financially.
We have a little family, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, I think that would be fantastic at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting, like to just even to plant
That would
that
be.
as a
Yeah.
opportunity for you, because the way that you kind of lit up at the beginning, Steve, telling me about the proof that you know that what you're doing works. Tell me more about that, about what evidence do you have that the work that you do has an impact?
One of my favorite, the client that we had that we worked with her for, gosh, over a year prepping for this case. And she's an older, more experienced attorney. And she's at the point where she only takes cases that she really believes in. And so she was putting a lot of time and effort. And this is one of those clients that we were creating programs for her, thinking about
Mhm.
her. And now she's kind of like our avatar for our client. But we saw her, she was already skilled. So it wasn't about her like not having skill, but she went from kind of being buttoned up and real tight.
Almost apologetic too sometimes during the
Yeah.
jury.
Yeah, because she didn't want to come off too strong as a woman and an older woman and all this stuff. And, we're working with her and we're like, no, you're super engaging. Like, don't worry about it. Be yourself. Go for it. Go for it. But through especially the cross-examination stuff, she not only was more comfortable in cross-examination, she could write check, like she could do one on the fly. And that's really what our attorneys can do. They can improvise cross examination. We do a lot of improvised cross examinations. And
Hmm.
so during that case, a really big case, she was going against three opposing attorneys because there was
Okay.
it was a commercial case. There was multiple people involved, and they started throwing. I think they threw
Too.
two surprise witnesses at her that she wasn't expecting, and she wound up crossing them and absolutely wiping the floor. And she sent us a great quote. She sent us an email that day or a text message. She's like, "I just improvised crosses and just killed these surprise witnesses."
And so her case actually, the jury came back and told her, I would have awarded you millions more had I been allowed to.
And it was tens of millions of
Yeah.
dollars in the
Right.
verdict.
Right.
So it was a really big deal. It was like
Yeah.
the signature win of hers, and a lot of people celebrated that win.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would love, like, I just kind of plant that seed for you to think that
Yeah.
way, that
Mhm.
it may be even, if you look at how booked are you in terms of like, if you look at your capacity for what you're doing, where are you at and what's the goal, you know?
It's actually interesting, like, this year has been different for us. We were normally, like, thinking, "Oh god, we gotta just take December and January off and just write it off because nobody's doing anything." This year has been a little bit different. However, I would say what we have is pretty sporadic, and so our schedule is from week to week. Like, this week is crazy busy, next week not so much, and it doesn't always feel sustainable in that way, right? Because
Mhm.
it's a little bit and then a lot and then nothing. So, consistency is not really there. But honestly, after this 8-week program and the current little things that we have right now, we don't really have
Yeah.
something that we're, like, solid on.
So
Right.
it's really about bringing in those consulting one-on-one gigs, which we found in the last year and a half is really where we're going as far as getting new clients and whatnot. It just is easier to work with an attorney schedule one-on-one than trying to get them to commit to a multi-week type of training.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And they're much
yeah.
more,
And it's more lucrative.
yeah, and they're much more probably focused on a specific thing. What are you guys in California?
Yes.
You're in San
San
Diego?
Diego.
San
Okay,
Diego.
perfect. I love San Diego. So you primarily work with, is it in person? Like, is it primarily in Southern California or?
It's actually all on Zoom, so we work with attorneys
Okay,
even
so
in
it doesn't matter
London.
where. Okay.
It doesn't
Yeah.
Is there
matter
any
where.
advantage to it being in Southern California? Like, is that a preference or is it a better experience? Is there?
I mean, we have like one attorney here in San Diego we work with, like in person. We go to LA every once in a while. We're flying to Arizona on Friday for something. So there's not really, I don't necessarily think, being here
Yeah.
specifically is an advantage, but definitely Zoom, we can work anywhere. We've only met like two of our clients actually in person, even though we've known them for years.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
people that are like we consider them friends more than just
Right.
clients.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, we're just starting to get to meet a lot of those
Yeah.
people. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I look at it. So you're in a situation where when you're doing things that are primarily billable hours, you're like an attorney in a lot of ways, right? That you have a certain number of allocated hours that you could work. And let's call it, at a max of 2,000, but nobody's getting 2,000 billable hours, right? But if you were looking at a benchmark of 1,000 billable hours, if you look at that as your 20 hours a week, basically, for if you had 20 billable hours, do you ever calculate your effective hourly rate if you think about like if your bottom line, you're going to, you know, look at those hours and you said you took the amount of revenue that you generated in the last 12 months and divided it by 1,000 as your baseline billable core hours, or do you bill more than 1,000 hours?
No, I don't think we've gotten to that part yet.
No, in terms of the scope of the work, it's just been like incremental things that,
Yeah, we haven't done that equation. I'll tell you this, before this last year and a half, we were probably doing really great on that equation as far as
Mhm.
the amount of prep work that we're doing. But we weren't we were in this we had these clients coming to us, and we kind of had a built-in like little clientele base, and they would bring people, and that was fine. But things switched, and I think it's just because people are busier now, and where we were, doing all these classes and a little bit of trial prep and that kind of like personal stuff. Now it's kind of flipped on its head, and now we're spending a way more time figuring out our marketing. And so we're putting,
Mhm.
this year has been really tough that way. But
Mhm.
we've learned a lot. And
Mhm.
so we're, I couldn't tell you what that number is, but I can tell you it's upside down big time right now. So we spend most of our time working on trying to attract
behind
clients.
the scenes stuff.
Yeah, behind the scenes, which is not the stuff that we love. And of course, that's running a business and whatnot. But
Look at that. Like, it's very interesting. What would you say, like, as a percentage shift would be course income? Are these recorded, like, courses or are they live courses that you're doing?
The 8-week course coming up, we only have one recorded course that's on demand. They can just buy anytime.
The
The course
$199.
that we start on Wednesday for 8 weeks is live. We will record them so they can have the recordings, but
Yeah,
it is
but they're
live. It is active participation.
I
mhm.
got it. Okay. And so if you look at the course work, how many people in a cohort or in a class do you typically?
Well, we were hoping for 8. We do have 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
got
And
it.
it's a pretty it's not a cheap ticket item
Oh,
in the world that we are in. I mean, it's like it's an investment that they have to make. But in the
mhm.
world we're in, like people will spend more than that to do other programs. So we're like competitively
Yeah, no,
priced.
the
Yeah.
money's not, yeah, that's the thing. What is your time commitment in a 8 hour course? Like, luckily, probably the curriculum and the support materials and everything is all done. Are you literally like showing up and you're off book kind of thing, as that you're just doing the play, you're doing the performance?
Yeah,
For the most part at this point, yes, but because we rebranded, we're gonna redo the slides, to be more of our thing. But yeah, pretty much we've taught this stuff over and over again at this point, and yeah, we kind of know it, but
it's like a new item at Taco Bell. It's the
Yeah.
same 8 things that we were really good at, and
Uh-huh. Yeah.
now they're all together in like a
Ooh, look, we've got
yeah,
cheese and beef and yeah,
it's a
exactly.
quesadilla on the taco with the
Right,
yeah, it's
exactly.
yeah.
With a corn tortilla wrapped in a wheat. Yeah, that's great. So how many hours is your commitment in the 8-week program?
This one we're actually made it so they could hit a couple times a week.
Mhm.
So there could be up to 5 hours of actual teaching a week. So 2 2 hours and 1 1 hour session. And then really there's probably an hour of prep at this point just because we
Mhm.
know the material so well. Maybe 2 hours with
You've got
emailing and making sure that, we're corresponding with them and getting them
They've
ready.
probably got maybe 50 hours max
Yeah.
in the 8-week thing. And if you're thinking, if you did one of those quarterly, that's you run 4 cohorts a year of those. There's 200 of your 1,000 billable hours kind of thing. If you had 10 people for that, I'm just doing the straight
Yeah.
math, right? If you had 10 people, that would be $30,000 for the course, which would put you at a effective of about $600 an hour, right, to do the
Mhm.
thing. But if you have 4, you're at something less than that. 250 probably is the number, right? So you see, I guess that's kind of like you're within your band of your minimum, like your prep hour rate of there. So part of that thing is like to maximize what you can do within those allowable kind of billable hours that you have to create that lifestyle that you want. So what I was saying about a way to think about going into contingency work, like the way these attorneys do, is to start thinking about your excess capacity as an asset that you have that's collaboration currency is what I've been calling it, right? That you have these units. If you don't have somebody paying for that hour, it's perishable, right? It's like you're not getting anything for it. And so this idea of we're only going to do billable hour work, but you're spending a lot of time trying to get people to purchase those billable hours so that you can invest them. And I'm thinking that if you know that you can deliver a outcome, imagine if you had a model where you work along with a personal injury attorney to really go above and beyond to have the best impact that you could have, and you get 5% of the total
Yeah.
award. That if you did that, if they got $1 million award, you got $50,000. That would be a really interesting type of arrangement, right? So part of the thing
Mm.
when you're doing this, it's about the way that the personal injuries attorneys work. It's really about case selection. It's about they're the buyer. They're choosing that this is a case that we can win. They're, high probability, and they're going to invest the time and the resources and the stuff. So if you think about that, you would be willing to do how many hours do you typically engage in one trial like that you're working with them on cross-examination or opening arguments or whatever the
Yeah, it had I'm trying to think of even maybe just Susie because we kind of did a little bit of everything
Well,
with her, but everybody else has been just this or this
Well, I'm
kind of
just
thing.
like the 3 or 4 different attorneys that we're working with right now. If we
Uh-huh.
put those together,
Sure. Oh,
there was like 5 with Mike and
mhm.
then 3 with any witness. And these are all 90-minute sessions without the prep time. So I'm just trying to do the math, 5, whatever. So those are, we're anywhere from like, if we were doing everything on a case, it could be anywhere from 11 90-minute sessions doing live stuff to 15. I think 15 would be like a reasonable thing if we were really diving in there and
Mhm,
coaching and helping construct, and then
mhm.
probably another 15 hours of prep time. And I can't do them. I would have to get my calculator out. But
So
if
your
that's
average
90,
engagement with an attorney on a specific case is in the $10,000 range, 8,000
yeah,
overall, billable hours kind of thing.
Yeah.
Over what period of time would it typically be?
it would depend on how,
Sometimes even just a month, to be honest.
yeah, it could be a month.
Okay. So
Yeah.
if you look at that, so if you look at that $10,000, and that's an average of, what typically works out with these trials, do you feel like that you could have a bigger impact with more involvement? Are there, like, often in situations like that, when you are just economics 101, when people are buying something in advance, they're going to be more, tied into like, well, we only really need this. They're trying
Yeah.
to minimize the expense of
Yeah.
the thing because there's still uncertainty. Anybody taking risk on something, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of times you get into situations where you have this fire hydrant of value that you could add, but you're being forced to meter it out through a garden hose of their affordability, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing. And so if you look at it that, if it's $10,000, they would cheerfully, like, they're making that as an investment, hoping that this is going to tip things in their favor, that they're going to get an award of, like, you measured $40 million in awards that you've been involved in having a positive outcome, right? And so you look at that, if, let's say that it was 5% of there, so that would, let's call it, what's divisible by three, because they're going to get a third of the total award.
Mhm.
So of that four, let's call it, you know, 46 million, and that's divided by three. So 22 million in things. And imagine if you got 5% of their awarded thing, that would be $1 million, over $1 million that you would
Mhm.
have gotten. And have you ever calculated, like, how much did you get paid out of that $40 million?
Us personally out
Yeah.
of that, oh gosh.
I mean, probably, it was a couple, well, because I'm thinking about the actual work that we did. But I mean, there was a time when we were working.
I bet that attorney that you were talking about, maybe 10,000. The attorney that we're talking about, that 125 million.
Oh, yeah, 10,000 maybe with that one in
Mhm.
particular, because she was taking classes and those are
Yeah.
not as good as the
Personal
actual
work.
personal work that we were
Yeah.
doing, and we had been doing. So, I mean, with all of the classes and everything, we're talking not that much. We're talking about a couple 100,000,
Yeah.
That's it.
um,
So this is
yeah.
Yeah.
what I look at, is that there's potential. Like, if you stop thinking about, like, oh no, we can't afford to do this. Like, you're coming from a place where we need people to pay us this $200 to $300 per hour for this work, because we need that to, for our life, or for our, for living. And that's true for, I think that continuing to do that for whoever you're able to. But I think if you look at the other end, I think it would be safe to say that you probably have 25% excess capacity that I
Yeah.
mean, if you look at it on the other end, that you have the hours that are not being allocated towards anything, right? If you just take in the last 30 days, you would
Yeah.
Mhm.
have the time to do it, right? But you
Mhm.
don't have the engagement, you don't have the person, right? And
Yeah.
so I look at these things like, there's no way that personal injury attorneys would make as much money as they do if they were required to be paid up front. If
Mhm.
they said to, there would be far less lawsuits, there would be far
Yeah.
less people who choose to pursue these things because they don't have the money to invest in potentially getting the outcome, right? So,
We, yeah, we were talking to one of the attorneys that actually came from Chile, and he's working here now. And that's the way the system is in Chile. And he's like, people will do lawsuits, they'll win, and they'll lose money. And so it's just not profitable. It's a very unique situation in America to do that.
yeah. So I think that there's something there. So if we could plant a seed, that, let's say that one of your strategies is to allocate 10% or 20%, 10% to start of your available hours to pursue and look into, see what you're really capable of,
Yeah.
of delivering the results. And I've been using this analogy lately of most businesses are going to the purchasing department of a company, and they're trying to get them to write a purchase order for some consulting or improv training or all those things. You're trying to get people to write a purchase order. So you have to convince them in advance that this is worth investing in for a potential future outcome.
Yeah.
And you're competing against all the other things that are trying to get purchase orders for, right? And I say, if you just start thinking, if you go around, bypass the purchase department and go to the receiving dock, you're met with open arms, right? Every
Mhm.
single person on every level is 100% authorized to bring money into the business. And they're much more generous with future money than with present money, right? And that's something that if you think about that, that could be how long is the cycle of a case like that, like where you're getting involved and when the actual trial is, do they bring you in? How long is the cycle?
Well, this is
Well, it depends because
yeah,
this last week we've had, oh, I'm going to start a trial on Monday and it's Thursday. And that happened twice this week with two
yeah.
different trials. But then we've got one that we're starting this week that I think we have a month lead way.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Once, even if, and for the woman we worked on with her in that big settle or the big verdict that she got, the company or the defendants,
They
yeah,
kept pushing it off
they
and
pushed
pushing.
it off by
That was about a
appealing
year
it.
we worked with
So it
her.
was another year and a half before she got the settlement and they settled it. So there's
And
always,
yeah, for example, the one that got on Thursday saying I have opening statements or voir dire on Monday, that just got pushed to June. So
yeah,
that happens too.
so that happens too. So there's a lot of we never know how long it's going to take. And that's why settlements happen all the time because it's guaranteed. And there's not this whole
Mhm.
appeals thing that can last years and years. That's the other like tricky thing with that. But
Mm.
yeah.
But there are times when, like, we listen in on trial or they send us the recording after and we're like, oh, you only worked with us on this and your opening statement. Damn, we could
Yeah.
have really helped you there, But that idea that,
Mm.
like, it's only this one thing, but there's actually these other things that we could have totally helped with that they didn't notice or see.
Yeah.
We could probably build a case that, listen, you're best on in the 30 days before trial, or if you were to say, do all of your research, build your core case, build all of your argument, and then let's refine it in the last 30 days or the last 2 weeks or whatever or during trial. Often, I mean, how much of an advantage would it be, because if you were on tap to be able to, in the moment or in day by day, give somebody some coaching on
Yeah.
how to do it during the actual trial, do you ever
John,
want?
oh, sorry, Dean. I was even thinking, there's a lot of attorneys that are in that they don't do the multi-million dollar cases. They're doing a bunch of them that are 200,000, 500,000, in that kind of an area, or under a million.
Hmm,
And those are more likely to get settled or to get paid
hmm,
quickly and not have constant appeals. And if
hmm,
we were doing that kind of contingency plan, especially on those smaller ones, that might be I mean, you add that up, that 5% on a bunch of smaller cases, and that could be really lucrative too. So it doesn't have to be just the big case that could take a long time.
right. That's what I'm thinking anyway, of just like planting that seed for you. And
I love
otherwise,
that.
you're going to constantly be on that billable hour hamster wheel,
Yeah.
right? That you're going to just get into a trap of, right now, you have the luxury of having that excess capacity. Probably the worst thing that could happen is that you get on the other end of that where you don't have the time, and yet you're capped, you're stuck on
Right.
that.
Right.
So the three things that you can invest that excess time into is the preparing courses, like a documenting IP that is something that you could asynchronously get paid for, and investing those hours in contingency type things would be a great thing. And marketing of the system that brings you new people to work with, you know? So let's talk about the marketing. How do you get people now? What's your process for finding people to work with?
We had a lot of fortunate. I'm trying to think of the ways that been very fortunate. Sorry about that. We've been very fortunate that we've been able to be a part of some big early on, some big podcasts during the
Mhm.
pandemic that if you were on there, you were shared the leads for the people who signed up
Conferences as well.
in conferences. So we were able to build up a mailing list that's, you know, it's very specific. So it's not really huge. It's a couple thousand, but it's a very specific, niche. It's our clientele,
Mhm.
basically. And then we had Google ads going, but because we had changed so many programs and we're rebuilding our website right now, I've stopped those and I can tell because there's not people signing up for our newsletters. Not that there was a lot, but it's really slowed down. So that was another way that we were bringing people in. And the other thing that we're investing actually some money into is a podcast right now that is partnered with a company called Law Pods, and they're platforming us. And they do a lot of big law podcasts, but we're doing something that's different than anybody else. We're doing live simulations and
I got law pods. That was
law pods.
oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So of
So
the 2,000 emails, how often do you email them? Are they trial attorneys? Is that who's on the?
Yeah, they're all, yeah. We email them every Wednesday. In the last couple weeks, or well, every Wednesday, and then when we have a podcast, it's every Wednesday, and then every like Friday, I think we do two a week when we have a podcast every other
Oh,
week.
look at you. Okay.
And this last couple weeks, we were doing when we had open cart for a week, it was like 9 emails in a week, and we actually did pretty good as far as like not having too many unsubscribes, to be
I
honest.
was expecting like maybe 100 unsubscribes, and we probably had like 50. And I was expecting that. So I was like, actually, that's pretty good. And the emails we've sent since, there's like no unsubscribes. So I feel like we kind of just
Weed it out.
weeded out some people who are never gonna probably buy
Well,
from
that's
us
part of the
anyways.
thing. I would say that, right? You got to be willing to polarize, that you're going to attract the top 20%, you're going to eliminate the bottom 20%, but you never, my whole policy around it is never like limit what you could value that you can add to the top 20% for fear of losing the
Yeah.
bottom 20%, right? They say, oh, but what if people end up, we got to hold back on this. Always, if your thing is to add value, continue to add value. Do something that the top 20% are going to find super valuable. So, two questions. The email list that you have, if one of the numbers that I look at is I call this your revenue per unconverted prospect. So, if we take your top line revenue, divide it by the number of prospects that you have, like everybody assuming that you're doing business with is coming through that process where they're on your list as an unconverted prospect first, and then they either come to a class or hire you to do consulting, or take a class and then hire you to do consulting. So I look at that as one thing on your before unit. And then on the after unit, how much of your business is repeat and referral, people who you've already done work with, and then they bring you in on another trial, or they've taken a course and then they hire you to do consulting, or they loved what you did and they introduced you to someone else. How much of your business is what we would call after unit?
90%
Okay,
probably.
perfect.
It's
There you go.
Referrals, not so much. I don't think we've really had too many
but
referrals unless it's like
repeat.
oh, hey, I did a class with them and they've got a group, do an in-person one. It's kind of random. It's more sporadic, the referrals.
Mhm.
Yeah, but the repeat for sure. The repeat, like we wouldn't be here if we didn't have constant repeat from our really strong small
Yeah.
group of clientele.
Yeah, well, that's great. Do you have any arrangements where you're like special counsel to the law firm, where you're on a retainer as an ongoing thing to tap in for all of their cases?
I feel
Or
like we're getting this close to
okay,
one. Like we're trying to seal the deal on one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there is actually. Yeah.
yeah. But no, we have not been able to do that.
And so maybe, I mean, you could see how
Yeah.
that might be a good path too, right? So so you're getting all these new people coming in, 2,000 of them. How many of the 2,000 turned into new clients, let's say in the last 12 months? Or how old is email number one? How long has you been growing this list?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. And
Okay.
so
And
we
has it been
are,
growing at a rate of 400 a year, or is it that it was small, small, and then all of a sudden you got a big surge? And
yeah, when we did conferences, we get a big surge, and that's really where the growth has come from in our email list.
part of the thing that is, you know, precarious about that is that you're kind of putting yourself in a position where you are hoping to be selected. We talk about, profit activator number one in our model is select a single target market. And so that means I'm talking about proactively doing the selecting versus putting yourself out there and hoping to be selected. And
Mm,
that's where it's kind of like the difference between getting your name out there or getting their name in here. That's what's
mhm.
really the most valuable, right? Do you have a sense of how much it costs you to add a subscriber? Like, do you allocate money to this? Like, are you spending money on marketing? Are you paying money to be
Oh, I
part
see.
of these podcasts? Like, all of the investment that you're doing in marketing has turned into 2,000 emails. So if you were to take that
Mhm.
money and divide it by 2,000, you would have how much does it cost you to get a subscriber?
That's a good
I don't know.
question. I don't know. I know we were at one time when we were doing Google ads last year in the years before, so, for the last 3 or 4 years, we were spending under $200 a month, but they were very specific
Mhm,
ads. And so they were well placed and we were getting people in. But like I said, we had to stop those because they just didn't they're not lined up correctly anymore,
mhm,
especially with
mhm,
the change in all the programs. But right now, it's the early part of the podcast. I mean, we're only on episode 5, but we are spending, and this is a great deal because we have friends in the industry, so we have like somebody editing it, and we're getting like 2 episodes a month, and we're spending $600 on that, plus
mhm,
the equipment that we had to buy, so we're down a couple
mhm,
thousand on that.
mhm.
And then we're starting to invest a little bit of money on somebody to do like a couple $100 a month to have somebody consistently do our social
Social media.
media, which we have not been good at as
Mhm,
far as consistently pumping out stuff. But now we have a lot of clips from our podcast. It's a really good way to use our social media to get more
mhm,
people. So yeah, so we're probably spending now $800 a month on marketing just on that. And then I would like to get Google ads going again in that targeted way again. And so it could be,
About 1,000.
900, yeah, 900 to $1,000 a
mhm.
month.
So if you look at this, if you're, yeah, looking at that to be able to see how many new leads you're generating, right? Like in the terms of what are you doing because the bankable result of this is getting a new subscriber, a new, hopefully, trial attorney who
Mhm.
is now is a visible prospect for you, you know? Do you have a book or do you have anything that would be that you could use as a lead generator that would
Oh, yeah. So we have two downloadable PDFs. We
uh-huh.
have that are storytelling based. So it's one that's about asking the right questions to get storytelling gold from your witness or from
Mhm,
your client to help kind of your case narrative. And then another one that is about fact based storytelling. So they're not books, but they are like PDFs, downloadable PDFs.
but you could put a cover on them and they're, that visually cueing that this is some digital or some,
Oh yeah, for sure. Yes.
content that you can do. So part of the thing that I would look at is I would look at doing something like that, where it's a direct exchange, where you're trying to, at the minimum thing that you're trying to do is get a trial attorney to just raise their hand and be interested in kind of, it's an interesting juxtaposition of fact-based storytelling. Seems a little bit, there's some intrigue in that too, right? That's an interesting thing for attorneys, that there's probably a, but I guess there's a really, like, you think about Jerry Spence's book, that How to Argue and Win Every Time, is a pretty compelling title.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that if you look at what your, what you've learned and what your model is about, is getting in conversation with the right people. In order for someone to hire you, they have to know that you exist, right? So
Mhm.
that's job one, is just, you hear people talk about this, they've got to know you, like you, trust you. And that, but they always read it as one destination, and they don't properly revere the giant leap of not knowing you to knowing you. And once they know that you exist, it's a much shorter distance to liking you, and an even
Mhm.
shorter distance then to trusting you. And so you've got to just kind of get more people into that know you. And over time, what you're doing already with the podcast and the emails and the documenting, telling the stories of evidence-based results that you're getting, and unpacking them, content testimonials, or even redacted, like, things of sharing things in action, your principles that are, being shared. That would be a super valuable little mechanism, and then making it super easy for people to take the next step, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. This is
I-
so exciting.
Yeah,
Because we've even been asked before and we're like, oh, as far as the contingency thing,
yeah, we've always been afraid to do that just because.
but it makes total sense because we're spending all of this time and not doing anything, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
that's
mean,
Yeah.
exactly, that's my point. When you think about it like that, how much have you've lost by,
Yeah.
mhm.
there's a 0% chance that you're getting any return on those hours that you don't invest. And
Yeah.
so I would look at it of setting up around 1,000 hour, like, core block of billable hours. That's about 3 hours a day, right? Or, overall. And that if you really, like, do the audit, have that awareness of how many billable hours you're actually spending, whatever that gap is, it's 20 hours a week, basically, right? If it's 3 hours a day on a 7-day week, but 20, 4 hours a day on a 5-day week kind of thing. That's all really anybody could hope for or want to invest in billable hours of doing the actual work. And so I think that those, if you can start thinking about you know, the bottom 20%, your excess capacity of those as investable hours, be so much better to strategically, you be the buyer, you select, you'd have a selection
Mhm.
criteria. And one of the things you always ask, if I were going to do this, would have to be true, whatever your fears are about the things, right? Like, you're not just willy-nilly going to do it, but you're going to do it on cases. And I think that the odds are, working with a trial attorney who's already working on a contingency basis and trusting their, imagine if somebody had you in their back pocket for 5% of all the outcome, and you're with them on every trial that they're doing. I think that would be a real that would be a really great and exciting place to come from. And everything that you're doing there, getting towards creating your protocols and documenting your systems that you could train associates to do the same. You almost take the contingent law firm model yourself
Yeah.
Mhm.
and model it for your own thing. Imagine, if you had like Morgan and Morgan as they're the largest contingent law
Yeah.
firm in the country, right? Based right here in Orlando.
Yeah.
But
And we've worked with one of their
Just,
lawyers
yeah.
recently. So
yeah,
yeah.
but imagine that, if you had a contingent lawyer, attorney, that if they had you as an asset and they didn't, they could, they would be much more liberal and excited about the use of you if you were working on the same side with them, that you're getting
I
paid
love that.
for the
Yeah.
result. You're betting on them, and that's part of the thing. And maybe that could be something that you propose to people you already know, like, and trust, that you've already
Mhm.
Yeah.
done some work with. And you're saying, I was thinking about you, and I know you got so many other things going on. And here's what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Imagine if we could team up with you and be an asset for you. And you look at when you look at what's the increased likelihood, even if it's hard to truly quantify your component or your contribution to it, but even anecdotally, they might feel like just the confidence level, knowing that
Yeah.
they've got the best messaging.
Yeah.
It's a pretty neat thing you guys
That's
are.
really exciting.
This is
Thank you.
awesome.
Actually, yeah,
Yeah.
it's really exciting because I think it's like we've just been leading to this, but it's like it's a huge leap, and I think that's part of why the idea of House of Improv to Trial Haus Consulting, like part of that was also not just like people revering us as, oh, they're just actors, but we also revered ourselves that way because we've been treated that way, and also just the confidence level in ourselves. But we know that this is so worthwhile, and we've seen it that we're ready for that. So thank you.
I love it. That's kind of like improv science. It's kind of you're taking an art and putting a science element to it. There's something to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your takeaways?
Oh my gosh. Like,
Having
yeah, it's like,
being brave and entrusting ourselves and believing ourselves by really taking that leap. And I'm already thinking about those criteria as far as what we would do for contingency. And there's a case right now that
yeah,
we were like, oh my God, this is such a great case. Like it's those cases where
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. But so I mean, that just opening our eyes to that possibility was a huge takeaway for me today.
yeah, I think I've always like, oh, like, we're gonna work smarter, not harder. But then, like, what does that mean? And then looking at the way that you kind of just put it out in front of us on the table, it's like, oh, wait a second, like, we're still working harder, right? But it's just
Yeah.
like, it's not. We have a family and there is like this week we're actually full. So what is our capacity when we're at capacity and somebody comes to us, we're just like, no, sorry, we can't do that. But this kind of allows that balance that we've been looking for, but didn't know how. Yeah.
And seeing that through that idea of 1,000 billable hours. And it's something that I was kind of thinking, and I didn't put it into that concrete equation or number that you did, was our classes doing that quarterly,
Mm.
such a nice bedrock to to being able to do all these other things too.
Mhm.
I was kind of imagining it that way too, getting those classes just to be that base. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
The
understanding
foundation,
too
but
that
then
the
adding those
difference
things.
between 4 and 10 people, is that you're at $600 an hour, billable hour, and the at with 10 people at 3,000
Yeah.
is 30,000 divided by the 50 hours that you're gonna invest in running it. So it's anything you can do, to get, and those people are gonna come from growing those 2,000 emails to 5,000 emails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, this has been
Thank you so
exciting.
much.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
exciting. I can't wait to tell Marie. I got to talk to you too, so that's good.
Right. Likewise. Yes. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. Keep me
Bye-bye.
posted. Okay.
We
Oh,
will.
absolutely, Dean.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Bye-bye.